How did I go from working in a corporate job in New York to working as a deckhand on a super yacht owned by a multimillionaire, traveling around the Caribbean, racing in the Singboth bucket regatta, at the same time picking up skills, discovering my values, following my passions, having adventures of the lifetime, and then find the perfect role in Silicon Valley towards the end of my sabbatical. As a 25-year-old, I was free to go wherever the wind blows. But where was I going? And whose super yacht was it? Watch to find out. In this video and first episode of the Empower Circle podcast, I'd love to share with you the story of how I designed the perfect sabbatical when I was 25 years old that allowed me to travel all over the Hawaii and Caribbean islands. Paid. I got paid during that trip, attending events like the world famous Singboth bucket regatta while picking up valuable new skills like coding, living the Caribbean performance, escaping the yacht winter, meeting incredible friends around the world, and at the same time, discovering what truly lights me up, discovering my purpose, my mission in life, and my core values. And towards the end of the 4-month sabbatical, creating the perfect role in Silicon Valley that aligns with my values, my passions, my talents, and what I wanted to do next. I truly believe that doing intentional and meaningful pauses is an art. If you are in a season of life where you are considering a pause, a reset, a sabbatical, or you simply want to dig deeper into that purpose, that mission that lights you up, if you want to clarify and unlock your purpose, design the next right move, and you want to do so in the most fun, adventurous, spontaneous way possible, then this video is for you. Now watch on, and I cannot wait to dive in together with you today. Are you ready? Let's go. Hello there, this is your friend and your guide, Henry, and I just want to extend a very warm welcome to all of you for being here today in our very first podcast episode of the Empower Circles podcast. Whether you're driving, at the gym, on the treadmill, where you're between work meetings, or perhaps you're somewhere in nature, in a sabbatical or a deep creative pause, I'm just so glad you are here and you're tuning in. I am the host of the podcast and also a leadership and communication coach. I'm a storyteller, a edutainer, and the founder of 10 Nexus, our global school and community. Whether you're a leader in a multinational company or an entrepreneur building a startup in the Bay Area, or you're a content creator building an audience and community, or you're an innovator and technologist working at a big tech company, or perhaps you're a multi-hyphenate, multi-passionate, doing multiple and all of the above. And whether you're calling in, you're tuning in from New York, San Francisco, Southeast Asia, Europe, Latin America, wherever you might be, you belong here in this circle. And so, welcome to Empower Circles. Empower Circles to me is much more than a podcast. It's a global community. It's a space where every week I'll be sharing, spotlighting stories about global community members who are doing the inner and outer work to build companies, to lead teams, to build audiences and communities. And together we'll unlock the keys, the secret to their success. In this circle, you will find the inspiration, the knowledge, the accountability, the community that will support you as you go out and build your dream business, community, or audience. And feel free to join on a conversation. Join us on our Empower Circles newsletter on Substack, as well as follow 10X's and my handles, Henry V. Bell, on all our socials, on YouTube. I'm so glad you're here because today's topic is something that I'm truly passionate about, and a topic that has defined a big part of my career and my transitions the past 15 years. For the past 15 years of my career, I've taken 4 sabbaticals, and each of the sabbaticals has brought me closer to my vocation, my mission, and my purpose, which is what I'm working on today as the founder of our global school, 10X's Global, as well as an edutainer, a coach, and a host. Today's topic is all about unlocking our purpose, doing so through intentional, creative, meaningful pauses. I'd love for you to take the time to reflect, to journal, to meditate as you yourself go through this intentional pause. And the sabbatical doesn't have to be a 3 to 4 month sabbatical like the ones that I've taken throughout my career. If you can only afford a week off or a few days or even a half day on the weekends where you can go somewhere in nature, in the park, in the city where you live, that could be equally as powerful. The key here is to take intentional and meaningful pauses. And if you can afford it, go for a full-on reset. Are you ready to dive in with me? Let's go. I have created a guide called the Sabbatical Guide to Unlocking Your Purpose. Download it in the link in the description, in the show notes, and follow along, subscribe to our newsletter, and feel free to share with us any questions you have or an insight, a story you have. And if you're to DM me directly, I'd love to hear from all of you. And with that, let's dive right in. Welcome to Empower Circles, episode number 1, The Power of Purpose. Let's go. Have you ever thought, what is the purpose of my life? Which career path should I take? How can I maximize my contribution while optimizing for financial abundance, success, learning, growth, network, lifestyle, and so much more? What if you can do all the above? Unlocking our purpose, unlocking our superpowers is so important. Once I discovered my profession and then my vocation, the moment I identify the skills and talents that I can do better than 80% of the world population, and I doubled down on those for the past 5 to 7 years, my whole career was transformed. In 2014, I had been working in marketing for a hospitality company as well as an e-commerce company in New York, or at the time it was called Silicon Alley. It was in 2014, it was at the height of the technology boom. We're talking Facebook, Google, Twitter, Instagram, Airbnb, Uber, all these companies were out in the Bay Area. They were in Silicon Valley. And I remember thinking, I really wanted to become technical. I wanted to be in the middle of Silicon Valley, and I wanted to be a person that would add value to the tech community in Silicon Valley. And so I started to learn the code on Code Academy. I wanted to add a very important note about career planning here. To me, career planning is all about developing valuable skills and pursuing the right opportunities. Now, when you are young and you want to make an impact, pick an industry where there's a lot of growth and innovation and there's a lot of flux and change, because there you can grow a lot quickly and there's a ton of things to do, and many of the world's most talented people will be in that industry. Now, once you've picked the right industry that you want to be in and the skills you want to develop, I would move as fast as you can to the center of gravity of that industry. I think it's so important to go to the place where all the action is happening, because there you meet the people who are working on the things you are working on, and co-creations would happen. At the time, New York, well, still is, New York would be the financial center of the US and the world. Many of my friends ended up moving to New York after university because New York is a center for finance. Similarly, Singapore would be great if you would like to build a base in that side of the world for finance. Now, if someone wants to work in entertainment, I would say LA or Los Angeles would be the center of gravity. And for technology is undoubtedly Silicon Valley or San Francisco. So for me at the time, it was a clear decision that I wanted to leave New York to be in the Bay Area, because I wanted to be right in the center of the action of technology boom. At the time, Facebook, Google, Instagram, Twitter, Airbnb, Uber, and many other startups were booming, and there was a ton of opportunities, and many of my friends was moving from New York to the Bay Area, and I really wanted to also make the move to the Bay Area. Here I was living in New York. I was having a great life socially. I was going through a lot of the art events. I was part of some art circles in New York, and I was having a wonderful time. I mean, as a young 20-something-year-old, New York is the place to be. I mean, here you meet incredibly ambitious people who are also down to have fun and were into art and culture and come from multiple countries from around the world. And your mind is constantly stimulated by all the things happening at once. And so for me, being a 20-year-old something, living in the Big Apple was an amazing chapter in my life. I also wanted to add the fact that I had always been somebody who was pretty good at listening to my intuition and my gut feeling. I went to a university in the US, Amherst College, and then also in the UK at Oxford, and in Paris at Sciences Po. These were universities where they were feeder schools to the consulting and finance careers. And so at Amherst, for example, in the junior year, JP Morgan, Goldman Sachs, all these bulge bracket banks would come to campus and recruit. Many of the alumni from our school have gone and worked at those companies. And so this is somewhat pressure to follow a certain career path, which is prestigious, which pays well, with status and benefits and all these different shiny things. And so as a 20 something year old, it's so easy to follow the path of those careers without really understanding what it is that you wanted to do. And so already at the time in 2014, I had decided to work in technology and marketing, and tech was booming. And I had this urge, this feeling, this intuition, this gut feeling that I really wanted to move out west. I wanted to move to the Bay Area. I wanted to be in the middle of Silicon Valley where all the action was. If you are in a place where things are happening and you are in the center of gravity and the center of the action, there will be a ton of things to do and work on and people to meet and network with and co-create with. And so I highly recommend once you identify what lanes you want to be in, what spaces or industry you want to play in and leverage and connect and draw spaces in between, move to the center of gravity of that industry, and also move to a geography that allow you to leverage your comparative advantages. Later on, as you know, my career, I decided to move back to Asia and spend a ton of time in Vietnam where I grew up, because for me, this is a place where I can leverage some of my comparative advantage as a global Vietnamese French American who speak fluent Vietnamese. There's a ton of opportunities here in a high growth economy like Vietnam, which has been averaging 5 to 7% or more in the past 10, 15 years. And in an economy as well as an industry where there's a ton of growth and things are moving fast, there'll be a lot of things to do. Many talented people will be in that industry or that geography. You will be able to network, co-create, start new things in that industry and geography. When I was in the Bay Area for a few years, you'd be walking into a coffee shop in the Mission or Noe Valley or anywhere, sometimes in Palo Alto, similar. I've seen this a few times where I would be sitting close to a designer or engineer or a VP product or a sort of founder of a company. And then somebody else would be sitting across from them and they'd be talking about random conversations for their work and their life and ideas that they have. And then instantly I just see people start talking to each other randomly in a coffee shop. And they will follow up, and that's literally how magical the Bay Area could be. Obviously, there's a networking event as well as more curated circles across the Bay Area and otherwise in multiple industries. And so it was the fall of 2014. On a beautiful fall day in New York, I decided to leave New York. I was spending a few weeks in the Bay Area, going through some information interviews. Most of them advised me to either continue to work in marketing for tech companies or pick up coding skills. And so I thought, okay, maybe I should learn to code. And I was lucky to have some savings at the time. And I thought to myself, okay, I wanted to learn to code. And I could be in New York during the winter or out here in the Bay Area, or I could be exploring the US and other parts of the world. And so I was at a crossroads. I could choose to spend the winter in New York, or I could escape New York winter and spend time by the beach in the Caribbean and or Hawaii. Now, there's a very influential book during this time of my career, and that book is Thrive by Huffington Post founder Arianna Huffington. She's talking about the importance of honoring, pursuing the third metric of success beyond money and power. Arianna was advocating for the fact that we are only pursuing money and power. It's like a chair or a stool with only two legs, and soon enough, it will topple over. It's unstable. It's not sustainable. And she's speaking from our experience of burnout. Arianna really advocates for the idea of pursuing well-being, wisdom, wonder, and the willingness to give back. And I remember meeting Arianna in our office at the Guilds Group office in New York, and she came and she gave me a side copy here, and also sitting in the front row, listening to her talk at Advertising Week in New York. Her words about pursuing the third metric of success, which include well-being, wisdom, wonder, and the willingness to give back. So when I decided to leave New York and learn coding in the Caribbean and pursue adventures, for me, it was about fulfilling a sense of wonder, of adventures, of honoring the inner child and allow me to be in the space here by the beach and in nature that is very healing, allow me to learn and grow and connect and explore the world in a way that honors the third metric of success that Anna talks about in her book. This book at the time was quite influential in my decision to leave New York and pursue a few months of adventure and sabbatical in the Caribbean and Hawaii before I officially make the move to Silicon Valley. A quick note on mentorship and connecting with similarly more successful or more powerful people here. When I met Arianna Huffington, I was in my early 20s, and she is a global businesswoman and a global thought leader, founder of Huffington Post and Thrive Global. Arianna Huffington is somebody that I really looked up to and admire. She is a media mogul and magnet, and she is a writer. She's a global thought leader. She's a multiple time serial entrepreneur, and I've always been looking up to her. And so when I met her, instead of freezing up, I had the audacity to approach her when I was sitting after her talk at Advertising Week New York. I had the audacity, the guts to approach and have a wonderful conversation with her. And I followed with her. And guess what? She replied. She connected me with a columnist at the Huffington Post. So I started to write for the publication and share my perspective as a millennial. Now think about the time when you wanted to connect with someone at a conference or at an event, or you see somebody that you thought was attractive and you never had the guts to do so. Well, go for it. You might end up having a delightful, enriching, enlightening interaction even, and it might end up being a very meaningful connection for you both. So go for it. I got my first job at the hotel company, Starwood Hotels, in the same way. I got it because I bumped into the CEO and his daughter, who was visiting Amherst College, my university in the US, for Admit Weekend. Starwood Hotel Resorts global CEO at the time was Fritz von Passion, an Amherst alum, class of 1983. And I recognized him from press interviews, and I approached him. And that led to a series of meetings with our project team at Amherst College and allowed me to get my first job at Starwood. The moral of the story is have the guts, the audacity to email, to write, to tweet, to send that letter to the person that you always admire. You just never know. If the email is specific and targeted, they're much more likely to reply because they're busy people. I mean, think about your own position right now. There are younger people who are reaching out to you. If they send you a note in a positive, energetic, grateful, and passionate way, would you want to help them as well? So for me, it's all about paying it forward. Coming up, I'm going to share with you the story of how I became a deckhand on a Superyacht in the Caribbean, traveling around to St. Barth, St. Martin, Aruba, and all over the Caribbean for 4 months while learning to code, having the adventures of a lifetime, connecting with friends around the world, and in the meantime, unlocking my purpose, discovering what were the values that truly line me up. As I moved to the Silicon Valley, which is where I wanted to end up after my sabbatical, I was able to create a role, I was able to join a company that is more aligned with my mission, my purpose, my values, and what truly energizes me. And so stay tuned and follow along. I cannot wait to dive in together with you today. Let's go. And so hitting the call to adventure, I decided to book a plane ride to Hawaii, where I spent 10 days for my birthday. I was exploring Hawaii, learning to surf in Maui, hiking on Haleakala, the volcano mountains. I was meeting incredible people from around the world, from Germany, from Norway, Denmark, Australia, Singapore, India, Japan. And I just had an incredible time. And then I hopped over to the Caribbean. I was spending about 2 weeks in San Juan, Puerto Rico. And so some of my friends were flying in from Canada, from San Francisco, from New York, and we had an incredible community in San Juan. I remember in this photo here, it was Calle de San Sebastian Festival. It was like tens of thousands of people on the street partying until in the morning. And, one day I was in my corporate job in front of my desk, working in sales planning and strategy. And the next day, I was in the Caribbean, exploring new cultures, soaking everything all in, having an amazing time and adventures with my friends. And I was meeting so many new people, and I felt so constantly stimulated. I'd never felt so loved and connected and open, dancing on the street with people from around the world. I love it so much. I mean, I was able to satisfy my love for travel and adventure during this first part of a sabbatical. And during the sabbatical in Puerto Rico, I was meeting with friends from Europe, from Canada, from Vietnam, and who just happened to be in San Juan at the time. To me, it's so important to be around the right people, the right community, the right tribe during your time off or during your sabbatical, because they are the one who will hold you accountable. They're the one who will inspire and challenge you. They're the one who will empower you and give you that little nudge to do the thing that you wanted to do. And so I think a really great question to ask yourself when you wanted to break out of the mold and you wanted to gain and gather new perspectives is to, in fact, spend time in an environment that is different than the one you're currently in. Ideally, if you can travel to a new place in nature or a new country, if you can, it will be so stimulating for your mind. Or if you cannot afford that kind of time, you could spend a weekend somewhere close to where you live, or even a half day in your own city at a park. Depends on your circumstance and situations. I was only planning to be there for about 2 weeks. And then funny enough, towards the end of the first week, a friend of mine called up and said, "Hey, Henry, do you want to try out this gig in St. Martin?" And it's a friend of mine from the UK where I went to school for 1 year. And he said, "Well, this is a very unique gig. I'm going back to London to work in investment banking. But I've been working on this yacht as a deckhand. And it's a really fun job because you get to travel around the Caribbean. You get to meet very interesting people on the boat. And you get to meet friends from around the world who are based in St. Martin otherwise." And I'm like, okay, I'm now learning to code on my computer, maybe like 2 hours a day or a bit more. And I had all this free time. I could be spending winter in New York. It was, December. It could be very, very cold. Or I could be in the Caribbean, exploring the Caribbean, something I've never had done in my life. I was about 24 at the time. And to me, that was a no-brainer. I wanted to explore. I wanted to be in a place where I can be in nature, be inspired. I wanted adventures. Adventure was calling my name, and I'm like, okay, let's go. So I remember it was 2014, December 2014, and I booked a plane from Puerto Rico, where I was for 2 weeks leading up to that point, where I spent New Year's with my friends from New York and San Francisco and otherwise, who were all meeting in Puerto Rico. And I hopped on a plane ride to St. Martin. I tried the yachty gig. I loved it. I loved the fact that I was polishing the boats, these super yachts by like these multi-millionaires. But it was really amazing because I make good money. I was able to stay on the boat sometimes, or I would be like island hopping to Aruba, to St. Barth, to all these places that I had never been to in my life. And so during this time, as you know, I was learning the code on the side. I was coding JavaScript and all these different web frameworks and working as a deckhand, working on this yacht, traveling around, meeting incredible friends, and getting to discover what really light me up. So during this time, I would be learning to code in the morning for about 2 hours while I'm not working as a deckhand. And I will be in the afternoon or evening or whenever I have 30 minutes or so, I will be setting up informational interviews with my contacts in the Bay Area where I wanted to move to. And so I remember I would be doing calls on the island, on the beach, on the boat. I was able to do that and escape the winter in New York. And I was able to maximize my time and be in a place that was inspiring during the sabbatical. Now, whose super yacht was it? Whose yacht was docked in the Caribbean all winter and traveling around? I'd love to tell you, but due to a waiver of the eyesight, I cannot share the name of the owner with you. But I can tell you that it's owned by an oil and gas tycoon. I had the time and space, being very inspired by being in the ocean, I would be asking myself these questions. Henry, what truly matters for you? And what kind of values do you really consider to be important in your life? At the time, it was freedom. Freedom was very important. For me, learning and growth was very important. And during my time on the island, I met some of the most incredible, interesting people in my life, and some of which I'm still friends with today. So on the island, there was a Dutch side and there was a French side, Saint Martin, and there was these medical students from the Netherlands and Belgium who were there because they also wanted to break out of the mold and be in an environment that's different than being in cold winter Holland. And so I became very good friends with them as well, and I learned a lot from them. Gave me a lot of feedback and it helped me grow through these deep friendships. I realized that building relationships, building community, building networks in a very intentional way is very important in my career. And so these values, freedom, fulfillment, learning and growth, and network and community were the values that I realized were truly important to me while I was taking time away from my corporate job, tech job in New York, and learning how to code and learning to become a yachty and a sailor in the Caribbean for 4 months. So what's the lesson here? The lesson here for me is when planning a sabbatical, a transition or a reset in a meaningful way, it's important to be in a place that is different than our routine, our usual place. For me, it was being by the ocean, being away from the hustle bustle of the Big Apple. Perhaps for you, it could be traveling to a new country, somewhere in nature, near where you live. Or you can just spend a day or two of the weekend away from your routine in your own city. That could be very powerful. Some questions that I love for you to ask. What activity or passion that you feel drawn to that you never had time to do? What city or country would you like to explore? And what spaces or environment would you like to spend time in if you can choose? So these are the questions that you should be asking so that you could choose the right space and the right environment, the right city, the right country for your sabbatical. The space you're in, the people you're with, and the activity you'll be doing, a mix of both, to me, unstructured adventures, and spontaneous things, but also some ritual, some structured time to do certain things. For me, it was traveling to new countries, to islands, becoming a deckhand. But also, I had some structured things like learning to code and doing informational interviews with friends and connections in the Bay Area. So a mix of both is a very healthy way and the right way to approach it. Another key question to ask you is, what really lights you up? What really energizes you? In a sabbatical, one of the most incredible things that we can do is to, in fact, have the time and space to follow those things, follow the activities, be in the spaces, the places, the cities, the countries. That gave us energy and inspiration and new perspectives. Unlocking our purpose is channeling our passions towards a cause, a mission, towards something in the service of other people. And so the first thing that we need to do, the first thing that I decided to do is, in fact, take a step back and understand, figure out, and become aware of what it is that drives me, what it is that truly makes me come alive and that energizes me. And then once I start doing those things in the service of others, it becomes a mission. It becomes a purpose that I'm serving something greater than myself. But I first needed to understand what it was that lights me up, what it was that energizes me first. And the sabbatical in the Caribbean was an incredible opportunity for me to take a step back and travel away, far away from my usual environment, which is New York City, have the time and space to explore, to spend time in nature, and to do things that really, really truly light me up. And that was satisfying my insatiable curiosity. It was traveling and meeting incredible people from around the world. It was building community and gathering people. And also, it was about continuous desire to grow with the people that I care about. Now, turn to the guy. The key questions I wanted to encourage you to seek answers to or reflect on or meditate on during this time. The first part of your sabbatical is to reconnect with what matters the most, to reconnect with your core values, your inner values. Some of the questions are, I've listed in the guide, what truly matters to you? What matters most to you? What values have guided your best, most aligned decisions looking back and at the moment in your life? When do you feel proudest of yourself? What value or values were you honoring? And which values would you not compromise even for success? Thinking about the success prompt, if you spend time in nature or you close your eyes and you picture your ideal future self, the future self looking at you through the mirror and talking to you, and you can talk to your future self 3 years from now, 5 years from now. Imagine yourself in a state of complete contentment and happiness. And when you are feeling truly tranquil and peaceful and happy what you have, not in a achievement driven kind of way or the goal of recognition, but in a state of deep satisfaction for your life and career. Ask yourself these questions. What fills your days? Who surrounds you? What impact are you having? And what worries are absent? And perhaps complete these statements by focusing on what truly matters for you. A successful life is one where, for me, success really means to, and I'll be proud of how I lived my life if. What could be 3 non-negotiable values that you live by for the next 5 to 10 years that your future self will tell you to follow right now? So that's your answer. And don't overthink it. Just follow what your gut feeling is telling you, and you can write down the first answers that come to mind. All right. For me, the answer to these questions involved me building community for brands and companies. It involved me telling stories in a very creative, innovative way that reach different audiences. I mean, I was doing that for different brands, and then later on in my career, I was doing that to empower and connect leaders and communities, and then with 10 Nexus. And I'll share more about that in the next episode. This first sabbatical was instrumental to me being able to both, at one, be productive, having structured things around my schedule, and following the call adventures and spontaneous whenever I want to. And so for me, it was becoming a yachty, becoming a sailor, meeting wonderful friends on the Dutch and French islands in the Caribbean for 4 months. And up to today, I talk about this time very fondly. It's not every year that we get to spend 4 months in the Caribbean. And so as a young 20-year-old something with no strings attached in terms of family responsibility or employment at the time, it was, looking back, a really amazing thing that I have done. Towards the end of the first sabbatical, I successfully transitioned to a new role in Silicon Valley, which is where I wanted to be at the beginning of sabbatical, because I discovered my love for community building and storytelling during my time off. I was able to create a role in an impactful tech company that aligned with those passions and interests and values of mine. And I was growing the skills I wanted to grow in. In marketing, up until that point, was a good career path. It stimulated my creativity. I love to travel the world, and I'm working for a hotel company and an e-commerce company allowed me to learned very quickly data analysis and sales planning and strategy, all these very useful skills to start my own business today. I got closer to a profession that I truly loved, and that was storytelling and community building in marketing for tech companies and innovative brands. And so that was my story of how I left my corporate desk job in New York and spent 4 incredible months of my life in the Caribbean as a deckhand on a super yacht owned by a multimillionaire, traveling around the Caribbean, racing in the Singboth bucket regatta, meeting friends and having adventures of a lifetime. And then in the process, discovering my core values, discovering my passions and what it was to truly light me up, and pursue the perfect role in Silicon Valley towards the end of my sabbatical. Much of it was unplanned. Many of it was intentions that I had planted, but I simply let myself follow where my curiosities led. And that led me to not only discover my values, my passions, what truly light me up, but also unlock my purpose, channeling my passions in the service of others and creating the perfect role in Silicon Valley in community marketing and storytelling for a reputable brand, and having the adventures of a lifetime. And I encourage you to do the same. Do some journaling, meditation, reflection on the first section of our sabbatical guide to unlock your purpose. I'm so excited for you as you embark on your own journey of a meaningful pause and reset. And I wish you the best of luck with your sabbatical, with your pause, with your reset, that you will have the power, the intentionality, and the courage to go forth in this new chapter of your life and your career. Let me know in the comments if you have any ideas on what would make a great sabbatical. All of us are always on a journey. Some of us are reinventing ourselves. And if you have some ideas around where and how and who to do that with, please feel free to share that in the comments below. We'd love to hear from you. And I'm sure other folks who are tuning in and following the channel and watching the video would also learn a lot from you. I encourage you to go through the worksheet, include in the show notes in the description. Follow us on our Empower Circle newsletter on Substack. Leave a comment as well on the YouTube channel. Make sure to like and subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss the next video. I wish you the best of luck on this journey, that you will bring others along with you. If you find this episode useful, please share it with 3 friends. You can unlock your purpose together with your friends following the guide. And perhaps you can invite them to join you on your sabbatical or your meaningful pause. The second sabbatical allowed me to find my vocation as a coach in leadership and communication, guiding leaders, guiding technologists, guiding entrepreneurs to build the business, to build the team, to build the audience that they always wanted to do. Stay tuned for episode 2 of the Empower Circle podcast next week. Between now and then, I wish you fulfillment, success, and you step into the power of your purpose. With power and purpose, your fellow seeker, Henry.